money. I also am conscious that you can't tell a developer your land's not good enough. Oh, your neighbor's is. You can't if they want to do it because it might be a development that's compatible, large lots, that sort of thing, self-service lots, the ones that don't require hookup to services. So I'm not categorical. I think a lot of planners are, but there's always a dichotomy between build it and then plan it, and they're not always on the same page. And I think of examples when Costco was built out on Mapleton Road, that big hill, that was impossible apparently. But a lot of people, developers and others, and politicians work to say that's an important development for the North End, and we're going to make whatever an exception. There are exceptions to the plan and the zone, and at the end of the day, we're going to have 11 people, a lot of them new, decide, I guess, what developments are going to go and what ones aren't. I'm pretty pro development because I want the city to grow, but I think you have to be sensible.
Okay, well, speaking of being sensible, downtown, obviously, there's a lot of parking spaces that aren't necessarily accessible. Would you have any inclination to sweeten the pot for developers in some way to develop on those lands?
That's so hard to say yes or no to, but yes, depends on the plan. I'll just throw this in here because I've been thinking more and more about it. Our city market's been there a long, long time, and it's engulfed by other development and other needs. And I would think with all the land that we have and the need for us to face the river that we finally restored and is beautiful, a new city market with parking on Saturdays, like Dieppe does, would be a wonderful idea. So would there be encouragement for that because it's on private land? Absolutely. So that's an idea. If there was a convention center and that upped the game for us, for sure. So yes and no, it's happened in the past. To say categorically we would never give any public money to any developer who would do something to help the city is not a rational answer. It's not a sensible answer. It's not a truthful answer.
Okay, very good. You mentioned water, so just to go back that for a second, and it was low when you saw it, and I've driven out there too, and I've been kind of surprised. I know it holds a lot of water, and they say there's in the teens of billions of liters of water out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to get, long, long dry spells, and we could have problems. It could have, as it gets shallower, there's higher chance of blue-green algae, etc. Do you have any plans as to what you think could be done to the watershed to protect it?
It would be controversial, but water meters were designed to conserve. And then I was probably part of it. Politicians got scared because, if you put it all on consumption and there's a nice old couple who have a garden and they end up paying more than the person who doesn't use a lot of water. We came up with sort of not really a conservation scale because you'll notice on your water bill, the fixed charge is usually about as much as your consumption charge. And then you get into the argument, well, I got 4 kids and I got to bathe them, and then you get about, you got a pool and you will water your lawn, you wash your cars. It gets kind of petty, but the big issue is what do you do now with their hydro, your NB power bill? I've noticed it door to door. People open the door, but they close it quickly, not because they didn't like me, but because the heat's escaping, and heat and light are now precious commodities. Gone to Europe a lot. It's kind of the way it is, like hydro, or, and power, important, water, precious. Conserve it by having some. I would be in favor of upping the consumption part of the cost, make people who use pay. And I would totally, as a regulator, I'd be in favor, overcautiously perhaps, of putting soft limits on water use when the reservoir gets that. Because I like you, I was there last in October. It seemed low, and I said, what if we have no snow? What if this continues and we start the summer and there's no water? I lived through boil order, as a new mayor. I lived through that, and rationing and bottles. It's not fun.
Yeah, I remember going to the Coliseum parking lot to pick up fresh water when they had the boil water on order. Yeah, true enough. Okay, very good. How about now? Someone was asking about the North End, where the city has allocated funds to build a new pool. Some of the residents are concerned that the pool is already too small given the potential use that's there. So the question that was asked, would the person who becomes mayor allocate or commit, I guess, to ensuring that the design suits the needs for the next up to 30 years from now, which seems to be a long way, but
Well, this all will center on a discussion about what Dieppe did, what Riverview did, and what how the Y's doing, the Y that we all helped build, the two Y's, I guess. And the previous council has committed. It's sort of a soft commitment, I'll tell you. It could be changed. But having met with the Y and talked to some swimmers, and mostly talking to the people of the North End who continue to feel, hey, we're the fastest growing area of the city. We don't have a rink. We got all these schools, all these kids, and you're going to what? Stop the pool? So I don't know is the answer, but I think that, you know, building something that is suitable for the population that's up there, that doesn't turn into an analogy to schools being built and portables being added the next day, is has to be looked at. I'm confident, having met with the Y people, that they're envisioning something for the future. But I think again, this is a commitment of a previous council, and we're a new council. We're going to be a new council if we all get elected, right? And we just got to look at it again because there's no shovel in the ground, right? I mean, there's no shovel in the ground. There's a concern that the YMCA or YMA, I think now, anyway,
mm.
is not, as pan representative as it should be in terms of bilingualism and so on. I wouldn't buy that because maybe I'm a big fan of the current Y, the current people, but I would think best practices would need to include who runs it, who owns it, who does it represent, who feels welcome there, what's the affordability. All those things have to be assessed. So I wouldn't commit to that pool that's planned, but I wouldn't commit to a $200 million Canada Games pool in the North End because some people are suggesting maybe that's the showpiece of infrastructure. One of your questions coming for the downtown. Is it? I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Okay. Now, just moving over to governing for a little bit. Your history is long for municipal politics. What are some of the things, one or two, that you are most proud of from your past that you accomplished?
I can't underscore the power of a united or at least a majority council deciding to get things done. And as a counselor, myself and a few others, George LeBlanc and Boyd Anderson, I can name, Doug Robertson, these people were progressive hard workers who said, we need to change the water. We got to get the water going here. This is terrible. So, we all did that. It was a private public partnership. So it wasn't infrastructure. There was no infrastructure back then. And we got that done, and that was fantastic. Same example for the city hall. Later, when I became mayor, the example of a fourplex arena was our council again saying, we don't need another golf course. That's what was planned. They were digging, shovels were digging for another golf course. I'm pro golf. Okay. But I play hockey and I had kids who played hockey. Everybody does. And we said, a fourplex. My poor late brother unfortunately had good sons who were good hockey players. He was at the Dud for a cup of coffee and then over to the Carroll and then he was over to the K and then he had to go to Kent. The idea of having that fourplex in one place, I think people who don't remember the past don't remember or don't realize how wonderful it was to have the first fourplex in Atlantic Canada. Great idea. Again, PPP, great thing. We opened the bridge to Riverview, which originally was not going to really have any sidewalks. So Ken Kelly of downtown Moncton and the city worked on making that kind of a beautiful bridge. Facing the river and the challenge and being the first council to say, let's open the gates. There's no more debate. That was never a lake up there. It was an overblown ditch, okay? And the gates need to be removed and the river restored. And many people, it's never coming back. It has come back. And finally, there are a few other buildings and monuments and all that, but making the city come up to date with its bicultural, at least multicultural for sure, but bilingual character is extremely something that needed to happen and was good for Moncton. The Summit de la Francophonie showed all the Anglophones that, hey, there's something to being bilingual. Larry Nelson decided, for Lounsbury's that Well, I sell a lot of stuff to francophones. I'm going to become part of this with Denny Lozier, and we really became more unified over the idea of declaring bilingualism than I guess some people thought. Oh, this was going to be the end of the world. It isn't. It's been a great asset for Moncton. It needs to be promoted even more. And I think that would be the biggest legacy of the time, 18 years that I was around.
You had mentioned, I think I had heard you say that you thought that perhaps bilingualism has taken a little bit of a slide back over the last decade or so. Do you feel that way, or did I misunderstand?
Uh, I don't think I said slide back. I think I meant that the progress wasn't probably as swift or it's amorphous because not everything. This is a city. That's the city of Moncton being bilingual. It doesn't mean that the city in its character is bilingual because the world of commerce, is largely English, right?
Hmm.
So you can I just often said that you look downtown Main Street and if you didn't know where you were, and I think this applies to places around the world, you see the same sort of corporate signs that are in English. And I think Dieppe made an effort, but they want to be a francophone town. We want to be a bilingual town. I think anytime anybody can be encouraged to put signs that are bilingual, they should be. And we should do more to promote our bilingual character as a positive thing, not a cross to bear, but a plus for your business or your facility. That's all I meant. And I'll be honest, it took a long time after I was on council, despite many letters, to just put a plaque on the Moncton Lions Senior Center that was francophone. It took forever. And I joke that at our rinks, I was always, a rough hockey player, but I always said I never got a penalty in French because the scoreboards didn't have the word punition on it. So, I never got a penalty. But why did that take? So these are some of them simple, but highly symbolic things that don't hurt people. I think the days of saying, oh, bilingualism, that's going to hurt us. No, that's not true. And it's not the major concern of people at the door. I think what's bigger concern linguistically, and I lived this life in Parliament when you meet people from Ontario and Saskatchewan, they'd say, well, the issue is going to be having newer Canadians being able to speak English. So for the first time, English second language training, I think, in Moncton equals French second language training because newcomers want to be able to communicate certainly in English. And it's made
Hmm.
us, I guess, more diverse for sure, but it makes everybody cognizant that language is important.
Okay. Should you become mayor again, are there any plans afterwards? Because you've had a long history in civic service. So do you have any plans for after becoming mayor or when you're done your term as mayor? Should you be mayor?
Well, I wasn't thinking that it would be one term. I think things take time. My experience is things take 6 or 8 years, so I'm fully locked in for a couple of terms. But no, I have no aspirations beyond this. I've gone up that ladder. I come down that ladder, and I'm not going up that ladder again. I'm quite. This is Eric the best job I ever had. I've enjoyed being a lawyer immensely,
Hmm.
but being mayor of Moncton was a tremendous honor, and I felt that you had an ability to get some things done. Other levels of government and being a counselor, sometimes it's not as rewarding. But I'm looking forward at this stage of my life to becoming mayor and working with the team and listening to the team and saying, look, we need 5, 6, 7, 8 people to go along with this. Are you in it? And they'll come to me and say, well, are you in it? And that's what I've met with every one of them. Pretty much everyone. There were some late entrants I haven't got around to yet, but there's a really esprit of new, fresh start, teamwork. Let's get things done. I think there's been some inertia, some infighting. I don't know what happened the last 11 or 12 years, but when you have candidates coming forward after all that time on council with new plans, I don't understand that. I don't know why they weren't, and I won't be general or specific. I'll just say new plans, 14 years. What?